Miguel, mute your mic, please. How you doing today? Hi, Manisha. How you doing today? Hi, Manisha.
Good afternoon.
How you doing today?
Okay, a bit annoyed, but I'm okay.
How I know how you feel. We get through this. Just take 5 minutes. We give everybody 5 minutes to join, okay? And then we'll start, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Hi, Rosaline. How are you today?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks. We just giving everybody about 2 more minutes to join, and then we'll start, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. I was just giving everybody 5 minutes to join. So I don't have to repeat so many things, but I hope everybody's well today or settled in so far. Um, we are going to cover the second part of, I think, chapter 12, which is organizational buying. So on Tuesday we talked about consumer buying process or individual buying process. So now we're gonna look at it from the organizational aspect. but I am concerned. I don't feel like I'm getting sufficient feedback from everybody. So tell me how things are with Celine. Tell me how where you're at with your project now, because I said in this class it'll probably take us the first hour to go over consumer, the buying process. Then we'll perhaps answer one question. I mentioned it on Tuesday, the one question in the workbook, and then you could perhaps have some time to complete your homework as well as work in your team to finish your project. So where are you now with your project?
Well, with our project, it's just putting everything together.
Mm-hmm.
I've started putting everything together, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay,
Let's put
so
it
to
together.
finalize it, because you have to email it to me on Sunday.
I know.
Okay, so to finalize it, you're gonna use the remainder of this class for you and I got you to work together to finalize it so you'd be ready to submit on Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Because I know a lot of persons are caught up already with the pandemic, and then there's this tropical storm coming for you. Also have to make some preparations for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a long lockdown weekend, so um once we would have gotten all of our needs out of the way, then we should be able to um focus. Any concerns with the homework, Miss Lynn?
I didn't have any concerns, but you always just put an essay question in there, so I didn't have any concerns with the homework.
Okay, but I want and what I've seen, because some persons have submitted their homework already, and what I've seen is that persons are not answering the question. So with the essay questions, please read the question and answer what the question asks. What I got 2 or 3 pieces, and I'm getting a lot of fluff. I'm not getting specifics to what the question asks. Okay, so make sure you don't just write me a lot of fluffiness and tell me all about what a toxic environment is and how this and that happens, and this is a lot of stories. But I want specifics on the question. If Are you contributing? What can you do? Because again, all of us are a part of the institution, and all of us have a contribution. None of us are perfect, and there's always something that we can do better. So when we leave this class, I want everybody to be like at least have the awareness or the realization that perhaps my attitude can adjust, or I can do something better. Okay, so we don't what we identified a lot of the root causes, then we put out some solutions. So then now we want to work within ourselves from what we would have learned in all the classes that we have taken, and from networking and from meeting the people. um, I mean, from going through the whole process, what have we learned? What can we do differently? Is there something that we could do differently? Because I'm certain nobody is. You may be showing up every day feeling like you're giving 100%, but there is some adjustments you can make, like continuing on in school, sharing your knowledge with the persons who are not as privileged, who don't have the time or cannot afford to come to school, and mentoring. We talked big about that in supervisory skills. So from that aspect. Okay, so ensure you answer the questions. Stephen, what about you?
For the homework, no, I didn't have too many challenges, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just a matter
Oh,
of following instructions for the essay. That was it.
and so now your essay is specific to you.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. So I hope to see in these essays that I can do this, and I commit to doing that, or I'm aware that I need to brush up in this area, or perhaps I need some cross training so I can assist the team when there are absences and stuff like that. So okay, very, very good. Okay, so any questions about Tuesday in terms of the buying process in regards to individuals? No, so this is why you're scaring me. No questions, very little feedback. It's like Miss Bullet, just get through it and let us go. That's where we at. Kaisha.
Sorry, Miss Bullet, repeat the question, please. Sorry, I'm on the road, so I might be breaking up a little bit. I'm trying
Okay,
to
I don't
connect
want to distract you.
a
I don't want
hotspot
to.
now.
I just want to make sure that you're retaining some of what we're discussing in class. Just want to ensure that you're retaining it.
Pretty much after class, I go and I try to read on my own so that I can understand it more better.
Okay. Okay. Good. So I would hope that we have more discussions in class, so we could cut down the amount of reading. But normally what I try to do is give an overview, and then I say, did anybody read? Nobody responds, or one or two persons say, yeah, well, I did read. And then that's why we get to reading. So perhaps, with hopes that more clarity is gained or more questions come out of what we would have read. Okay, and so like I discussed on Tuesday, we are going to just cover the buying process with chapter 12. We are then going to stop at chapter 12 once we cover the buying process. On next week, Tuesday and Thursday, we hope to present our projects. Our projects should be emailed to me on Sunday. It is expected that you present for 30 to 45 minutes with the information that you have gathered. And then whilst I will be grading, I do expect questions or feedback or some type of commentary after each person would have completed their project or their presentation. So with Selena and Italia, they did the insurance companies. So of course, I expect you to have some questions. The other two groups have some questions on insurance. Kaisha and Stephen they did the credit unions. So have some questions in regards to the credit unions. And then Malisha, Blakely, and Miller would have done gaming. And so normally gaming is very lively because as persons would have ventured out and done their research, they found loads of information that they share with us. So you should have some questions in regards to gaming as well. Okay, and then after that, the final exam is the following Thursday. And so I was wondering if Tuesday would be sufficient time to complete some review, or would you need a weekend in between? And once the presentations are finished, do we need to jump right on review? So that was a question that I want you to answer. Blakely?
Hi. Hello.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Did you hear the question?
No, sorry.
Okay, what I was asking is that your next week is the projects, of course, the presentation for the projects. Today we're ending at chapter 12. And it's gonna be short. With then right after you're gonna work in your groups and complete your project that has to be submitted on Sunday, and also complete your homework that has to be submitted today.
Okay.
So what I was saying is that the final exam is scheduled for August 13th, which will be the following week. And we have review scheduled just that Tuesday before. And so what I was asking is, was that sufficient time, or do you need a weekend in between? And should we start review right after the presentation on Thursdays? After the presentation ends on Thursday, should we then start review?
I think it depends. The final exam would include the chapters we did on the midterm as well.
Yeah, it should be from chapters 1 to 12.
I don't know, maybe a little bit more.
Focus. it will focus more on the chapters that we covered after the midterm. So primarily, I would say 75% or 60% of these of the exam will be on chapters, which is at 9 through 12,
Mm.
and 25% 1 to 8.
I guess if we aren't getting much more information, then we should be fine.
So the Tuesday before the exam is fine for review.
For me, yeah.
Here for you.
Mhm.
What about you, Melisha? Is that fine? Oh, Atalia. I think Melisha may have some difficulties. Atalia, is that fine?
I think it's okay.
Okay. Okay. So if once we have time, we can start next week Thursday, and then if not, then we will leave the rest for Tuesday. So that's the plan. Any questions in regards to the final exam and any other information? Now we may still be on the curfew on the 13th. Are you at institutions that are closing like 12 and you would be able to make the final exam for 3 or no?
No, I get off at 4 o'clock.
You get out off at 4.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. You may have to take your final exam online. Is that okay?
Online is better.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, y'all say online is better, but let me just discuss how our online works. And we try to stay away from it. So again, you are recorded. You have to be in a room with you can't use your cell phone. You must have a laptop with a camera. Nobody can walk into the room whilst you're doing the exam, and you can't walk out of the room or leave from the computer. Now, we had somebody that dropped their pen on the floor, and once they moved, the computer locked them out. And so, the computer is very, what should I say, touchy. Like, if you make any move, they lock you out of the exam, and then you have to resit it.
That's
Okay.
I mean, we're home. For me personally, I have a child who is gonna keep coming in and going out. I don't have anybody, especially with the curfew now, at 7, to be able to watch him. So me having to be back and forth with him, that's kind of difficult, not being able to move. Because besides
Okay,
the
and
exam, the stuff
you,
going on.
yeah. What time do you get off?
But we don't get up until 4:30.
Oh, y'all get off. Okay. Are y'all getting a study day or anything? No, anybody is applying for a study day?
They don't do that. No.
As well as they feel as though you're getting so much time off now from work that I think right now they're cutting back even on vacation days.
Wow. Okay, but normally a lot of the institutions, if you like work in the bank or what have you, they pay for your courses or they reimburse you once you pass. And we have said to the institutions over and over again, it's ludicrous to insist these persons go to training or career development and you don't give them time to study. So, okay, I don't know how else to tell you, but Manisha, definitely it won't work like with your son walking in and out. That definitely won't work. Um, I don't know how else to, I guess, if persons aren't able to have uninterrupted time online, then I guess just speak with me, send me an email separately. And what about on a Saturday then? We are allowed to go out or be locked down on Saturdays as well.
that right now, that's an issue as well because besides my mother's the only person I have to keep my son. And with her being older and being locked down, that is the issue. It isn't like where we had the curfew at 9 o'clock and she was more willing to assist in that way. No, she's not.
So what would be convenient for you to take this exam then?
Well, I mean, taking the other exams, I mean, they sent us the information what we needed to do, and they gave us a time period to return it within that, usually within that night.
Oh, okay. No, that this exam is not set up like that. It's a closed book exam, and so I can't just send you the information, and it will be similar to the midterm. So I cannot just send the information. It's either online, uninterrupted, and it's watched and recorded. And like I say, you get locked out very easily. Nobody can walk in or out of the room. You must have a laptop with a camera, and you can't use any phones or books. So I guess we would speak separately, Manisha, on you perhaps would have to wait until the curfew is lifted to be able to go into the institute to sit the exam. Is there anybody else with a similar issue? No? Okay. And, no, and Stephen, you do have, because I noticed you do connect from your phone. You do have a laptop with a camera.
Yes, yes, I do.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, yeah, so Manisha, we'll try to accommodate you as best as possible, but I'll speak to IT now and let them know that it's more convenient for everybody. Since the curfew, nobody can be there at 3 because they were proposing that the exam start at 3, so you'd have sufficient time to get home. But since I'll just schedule with IT to have it done online. Okay? Good? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, good. So be good with the individual buying process and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We can definitely write them in an essay. No questions? No? Okay. Anybody read organizational buyer behavior? No? Okay.
Hello,
Hi.
can I me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I started to read it, and basically what I gathered was that the organizational buying is the buying of the products to help the organization to meet the needs of the customer, and the individual buying is to satisfy personal needs or family needs. I started to read it, but that's as far as I got.
Got it. Okay, well, that's a pretty good start, right? So the main difference between business markets and consumer markets in market structure and demand, the nature of the buying unit, and the types of decisions and decision process involved. So we talked about the individual buying process or the consumer buying process, and there were 5 steps in that process. Can anybody remember the 5 steps? No? Could we go back in our books and look at the 5 steps, which was problem recognition, information search? We remember that? Evaluation of alternatives,
Yes.
purchase decision, post-purchase evaluation.
Yeah, I remember
Okay.
that.
Okay. And then we talked about sources of information and where what consumers do when making buying decisions. And I think it was Vissaline who said, or Anne Malisha who said that I go on and I read the reviews, especially from Amazon. We remember that? You guys
Yeah.
talk back to me because I
Yes,
feel
ma'am.
like I talking to myself. I need some feedback. That's it?
I remember.
Sorry, Stephen, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I remember talking about that. And then,
Okay, so we understand all of this and we can write this in an essay.
yeah, once I review it again, yeah.
Okay, because I'm just letting you know your final exam may just be made up of essays. No multiple choice. It's been like that in the past. And so we were discussing the exams and they said perhaps, just 3 essays and that may be the final or there may be some multiple choice. So, but I will definitely let you know during the review. So the organizational bio behavior also has 4 or 5 steps in the process, and they also have a lot of persons involved in who buys um, on behalf of the organization. So ultimately, all organizational buying decisions are made by individuals or group of individuals whom are subjected to the same type of influences. They work for a company, the company has values and goals, and these group of people work together trying to achieve these goals. As they are making their own personal buying decisions, they sometimes, if it's a Jehovah's Witness, they are influenced by their belief. If they are part of a special group, they are influenced by, oh, I'm in the lodge or I am in Toastmasters or what have you. And so normally it's a collective effort where persons come together and sometimes they brainstorm, um, or again, price plays a big factor in what we buy or where we purchase from. And it just depends on the standard of the organization because I know at one point um, we had 2 individuals that were in charge of buying purchasing inventory on behalf of Royal Bank, and one person only bought generics items, and she felt as though she was saving costs for the company. But a lot of times persons did not, like, in terms of the type of cream she bought, or the brand of sugar, or even the brand of coffee. And of course, we were out Life so a lot of persons had a problem with that because they were not familiar. And so they would make loads of complaints in terms of, I've never seen this brand of coffee or I've never seen this brand of cream. And why are we constantly buying these generic items? Um, so they actually, the majority of persons complained about it. And they actually removed her. And then they said that the stuff would just waste anyway. And in actuality, we had loads and loads and loads of some known name brand coffee, and nobody wanted to drink it in any event. So all of these influences affects the personal buying decision of that person who is in charge of the inventory at the organization. So that's one of the differences between the personal and corporate buying. Whereas if you're buying personally, you decide if you only have generic stuff at home, then that's fine and dandy. But when you're buying for the group, that could cause a problem. And you say it's in the name of cost savings. Of course, every company is worrying about their bottom line and they're concerned about cost. But if the persons are not using it, or if you have a group of persons who do not believe in using, because I do use some things generic, but then some things I say, the generic brand is not as good, and so I would not buy it. But you have to know the standard of the institution or the people that you are purchasing for, and like I say, the values of that institution, and where they, if is this an area where they would want to cut costs. And again, that was, somebody even complained that every time we cut costs, we are cutting costs on the needs of the staff, like the type of toilet paper, the type of tissue, the type of coffee. And they said those things are just wasting. So essentially, you're spending more money. Okay. And so again, you want to ensure that it's just not one person, or it's a discussion on the standard or the type of goods and services um, that you would use at a particular organization. Is that clear, or was that, Blakely, was that clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah, it's clear. Okay, we understand. So have we had those instances where persons, um, buy a particular brand that nobody's comfortable with, or we find that we put some, we pull a piece of paper out of the printer and it tears automatically because it's so cheap, or have we experienced any of those types of scenarios?
Yes, ma'am, all the time at work.
Same.
Okay, so you see the level of is it for things for the staff versus the clients, or how what has been your experience, Italia?
Well, for the staff, so in the cafeteria, let's say during breakfast, we'll have like 3 different brands of cereal, and nobody would know what they are. But some people know it's a generic brand, like the cornflakes brand that doesn't have a name, it just has like cornflakes on it. So nobody would actually touch that, because you have to add like sugar to it, and cream and water to get the taste from it. So nobody actually messes with that. So now what they started to do was buy like Fruit Loops, and it's like a granola cereal with raisins in it. So once they see that staff wasn't eating that particular brand of cereal, they just changed it to something else. So yeah.
Okay, so do you think it's the case where you have the person who is responsible for inventory just trying to cut costs, and so they figure that, oh, it's just cereal and persons are going to eat it anyway, so it does not matter which brand I purchase? Or is there a cross of, I have some generic cereal, but then I have some brand name cereal, so persons, it just depends on what you're used to, because I think Atlantis perhaps feeds what, 5,000 persons?
Yeah, I think they
So
just
there is a
save the
cross, or
best
is
for
there
last.
only the generic version?
There is a cross, but I think they put the generic ones out first so that could go, and then they put out the name brand cereal, which everybody would eat, and it would go quickly, and like, because the cafe is only open for like an hour for breakfast.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good. So what about you, Thompson? What is your scenario?
At our organization, I think it's for both staff as well as membership. And for us, it's just one particular person. They moved out of operations now. So she's in another department, but she would go to the store and she would pick, I guess, things that you never heard of before. Like Atalia said, you would get the cream. Okay, if everybody want the peppermint and we want the good ones. She would get these ones which you pull up out of the bag. It comes out of the box open. So when you open up the box, it's like that. The printer, the same thing. She would change printer after printer after printer. And if everybody have to print at this one printer, then why you keep on getting these? I don't even want to talk about it.
The same cheap printer over and over again, right?
Over and over again, as if it's her daddy's company and she is trying to save costs.
Okay, so in the name of cost savings, we understand. However, like you said, she is not saving costs because she would have bought 3 printers in a year when she could have bought 1 printer and saved costs and time of the printer breaking down and you calling the people to repair it and getting it fixed, right? But again, in the organization, we are just individuals and we bring what, I guess, our influences as a consumer, how we were brought up. What this is the brand our family buys. This is the brand that's least expensive. Or some people have the attitude that I grew up on this, so this should be fine for everybody. And if somebody has a problem with it, then they have a problem. It's not me. So how do we fix this? When we have a particular person who says this is in the name of cost savings and continuously does the same thing over again. How did y'all deal with that at the union, Thompson?
We got a consensus and we brought it to the boss's attention. And apparently he wasn't aware of what it was that she was doing, because he would normally come in the morning with his tea and he won't drink tea for the rest of the day. So he didn't know what kind of tea bag she was bringing. He didn't know what brand cream she was buying. The sugar would just get hard after a while. And, you know, it wasn't until we brought it to his attention that he said, hey, listen, this doesn't make any sense. Just like you were saying, with we used to have to repair. They would leave today, and by Wednesday they back again. Then you see them again, probably next week Wednesday again. It was just crazy. But to her, she felt as though no one could tell her what to do because she was trying to save money. But he himself said that this don't make no sense. Write it up, present it to the board, and let them approve it.
Okay, so did you find that they then selected a group of individuals who perhaps had, you know, other influences, or they just stuck with her and allowed her to make the changes?
At that particular time, she remained in that department for a while. But what he did was he started sending different staff members to the store when it was time to do the grocery shopping. As it relates to the printer, he started to use the IT guy. Our IT guy, he started to ask him to recommend brands of printers and scanners and stuff like that that the office would use that's going to be durable and long lasting versus the ones that she was going with because she was familiar with a particular company.
Okay, so let's talk about colleague care for a while. Why is it that we can never ever address problems? Why is it that we always find a workaround rather than a solution? Or the solution is a workaround?
I think that's just part of our human nature.
Okay, good. I agree. It's a part of our human nature, and so it's easier to find a workaround than to remove somebody who will be offended, or I guess whatever, you know, influences she already had were difficult now for her to change. Okay, but we want to move away. We want to move away from just working around somebody, and we want to try and I know it's a part of our nature, but we want to try and you know, find some solutions or offer training or say, you know, perhaps, you know, but it is a touchy situation because at Life a Key, you know, they said we was buying carnation cream and they wanted cow's milk, and they said, you know, we can't give our clients carnation cream. You know, they either wanted powdered milk or calf's milk, and persons took offense. The receptionist who had to go to the Super Value and pick up this cow's milk that expired. You know, once you open it, you put it in the refrigerator. We only had a customer, you know, once every 2 weeks, and so once every 2 weeks when a customer came, we had to go out and buy the cow's milk, and the receptionist was highly, if you know what I mean, she was highly upset about that, saying that people thought, you know, they was better than the locals, but it's not that. It's just that that's what the standard they were trying to maintain. Remember, they wanted to offer a white glove service to the staff, and at one point, you know, there's something called a Keurig where it makes like a special type of chocolate tea or coffees, and it's very, very expensive. And one staff member stood up and said, if we're dealing with colleague care, I I prefer that expensive coffee rather than, the regular one. And so why can we only buy that for the, for the clients? And then the next thing I know, they were making HR was making a decision saying, well, you can buy a certain amount each month for the staff, and they were very happy. So, like I said, it just depends on the person whose responsibility it is, and if they are influenced. And again, that should help you with your homework. Do not show up with, you are only human and your influences, but if you see that the person or the organization has another standard, or is trying to offer a particular service or product, don't let the people have to work around you. Okay, it's not your institution. Like Thompson said, it's not your father's business. This is not the house you grew up in. But adapt to your new environment. And that doesn't mean that when you go to the food store for your house, you now have to switch the cow's milk, but ensure that you adapt the values of the organization, okay, along with your influences. Because people would say, well, you saw you don't have a particular training, or what have you. So you want to ensure that you carry out the organization's values and goals, and not your, only your personal buying decisions. Okay, so organizations buy because the product and services are needed to meet wider objectives. For instance, to help them meet more closely their customer needs. That is to say, organizations buy to fulfill organizational requirements, where personal customers buy in order to fulfill their own needs. So in the buying, the business markets, there is market structure and demand. So the business marketer normally deals with far fewer orders, but far larger buyers than the consumer market does. So normally there's persons now have a procurement department, because there are a certain, like I said, an organization where they would have perhaps in the name of cost savings negotiated prices, and they deal with a certain group of, let's say we get all our paper from Boss, we get all our executive coffee is very familiar or popular, and persons order a lot of stuff from executive coffee. Procurement has become essential to organizations, because a lot of times, inventory was, falling through the cracks. Nobody was responsible. Like Thompson mentioned, her CEO, distributed it between 3 or 4 people. But what happens with that is when things run out, persons say, well, it's not my responsibility, or when things go missing, then again, it's not my responsibility. So you want more than one person making the decision, but you want a particular department or a team responsible for your buying behavior, or the any products and service that you need to purchase. A recent thing that I saw in the news was that the prison had spent $400,000 on bread alone in 2019. Did anybody see that in the newspaper recently?
No, I don't read the
No?
newspaper.
Okay, you should be reading the newspaper every day, the business section. Okay, so the prison had
Okay.
spent $400,000 on bread alone. And so they were very concerned, because they have a bakery section where they bake a lot of bread. So they were wondering why not spend this money on flour, but and they just spend it on bread. And so what they did is they put out a contract, where they, or request for a proposal, where a company would either provide them with bread, or a procurement manager would manage that process to ensure that only a certain amount of bread was being ordered. And if that ran out, they would be able to account that this is the amount of bread that we use every month. But when you see things like that happen, they are normally accusing, persons of stealing or not being responsible. Whomever was ordering bread at the prison, I can tell you they would perhaps remove now because they put it all through the newspaper. And so, in the name of cutting costs and responsibility or accountability, they put out a tender, and persons would, say that I can provide a certain amount of bread each month to the prison at this cost. And I guess when it ran out, you would need to then write to the whoever is in charge and say, well, this would have ran out, and this is why we need more. Or you would give that person the opportunity to say, no, we are not going to spend any more money this month on bread. When it runs out, it runs out. Okay, and so far fewer but larger buyers than consumer marketer does. Many business markets have inelastic demand, that is total demand for many business products is not affected much by price changes. That's because a lot of persons negotiate, just like this tender would have been put out. They would say that I will sell you, like, say, 200 bags of bread. They would have negotiated a price up front. After you would have exceeded that 200 loaves of bread, then they can increase the price, but they lock in a certain price for the amount that they committed to. And so normally, upfront that I have ordered 200 loaves of bread or bags of bread for the month. And I already know that I pay, say, $3.50 per bag. And so you can do that calculation. And so when you do your audit at the end of the month, you can see that I either exceeded or I didn't exceed. You don't wait till the end of the year and then you find out that you would have spent $400,000. So that's how it helps you with setting your budget. The nature of the buying unit. So that was the market structure and demand. The nature of the buying unit. Businesses purchase usually involve more decision participants and more professional purchasing effort. And again, we just talked about that in terms of um, persons can persons and their influences and why they want to involve more people to ensure that you get a good quality and that there's accountability and then you don't go over a budget that is set. The types of decision and the decision process. Business buyers usually face more complex buying decisions than do consumer buyers. The business buying process tends to be more formalized. The buyer and seller are often more dependent on each other. Supplier development is systematically developing networks of supplier partners to ensure the appropriate and dependable supply of the products and materials that they will use in making their own products or resell to others. And so you would find that recently during the pandemic, there was a shortage of toilet paper. Now, I don't know if we really felt the shortage, but I know in Canada had announced that they had ran out of toilet paper. And so automatically, everywhere in the world, I think persons started scrambling to buy toilet paper. And so in terms of developing a network and a supplier and a partner, I'm sure SuperValu has agreements, with paper companies and to ensure that if the world has a shortage, they won't have direct buyers going out to the wholesalers, but SuperValu would have first preference to ensure that they have that toilet tissue and they were able to sell it. Another contract that I saw out as well was like the Ministry of Works. The Ministry of Works, of course, you have, let's say, more than 500 employees, or even like the Royal Bank of Canada or any other financial institution. You can't have customers coming in using the bathroom and you're saying you're out of toilet paper. Or just think about the Atlantis. You can't have go to the Atlantis and there's a toilet paper shortage, and persons who would have paid to go to Atlantis will understand that there's no toilet paper. I mean, they would be outraged. And so this is why they developed this network where they ensure that if there's a shortage anywhere, their supply is secured, or they normally have more than one supplier to ensure that if this brand has a shortage or something happens, there are 2 or 3 other brands that, automatically will keep some supply for us and send it to us. Okay. And then not only the clients, you can't have people showing up to work and there's a shortage of toilet paper. Perhaps the coffee, I know sometimes you run out of coffee, but not toilet paper and essential items. Okay. Within the organization buying activity, it consists of 2 major parts: the buying center and the buying decision process. And the book talks about the decision-making unit. And so we will go in the book just after I finish going through the steps. Okay. Major types of buying situations is a straight rebuy. The buyer reorders something without any modifications. And I recently, this is not only for companies, I had ordered some stuff from BrandSmart, not for BrandSmart, sorry, BJ's, and they have a little check in the middle online, and it says if you want to reorder the same thing, you just check this box. And so I don't have to go through looking at prices and trying to find out if they have something in stock. My old order, I checked for them to save it, and so the system would automatically purchase that for me. So that works right now for companies as well as individuals. Now I have ordered from BJ's before, and I haven't seen that. So this is like the first time I've seen that. Rather than go through selecting, click I need, the regular, the bread, the milk, the sugar, what have you, everything what I would have bought. I can just click and it's bought again. And then modified rebuy, the buyer wants to modify product specification, prices, terms, or suppliers. And then new task buy, the company is buying a new product or service for the first time. So those are the 3 major types of buying situations with normally companies have to decide whether we're going to buy the same things that we always buy, we're going to buy a different brand or a smaller amount, or a new task buy. And normally we had a straight rebuy with the paper because John Bull had offered us a discount where they said that if you bought 51 cases of paper from us, we would give it to you at a very low rate. Let's say paper would have been $15 a box. They said we'd sell it to you for $9.99 if you bought 51 boxes. So the first month, I would have bought 51 boxes of paper and then realized that we didn't have anywhere to store this. But again, I was looking at the bottom line and trying to save money. So I called John Bull and I said, I want to take advantage of your discount by buying the 51 boxes of paper, but we have our storage is full. And so what John Bull started was that, listen, we have this paper in our warehouse anyway. And what we'll do is we'll hold this paper for you. And you can purchase it. You can purchase it and we'll hold it in our warehouse, and you can call us and say that, well, I want 10 cases this week or whatever you can hold. So that really, really worked out in our favor. Okay, so there are all sorts of ways that you can, save money and save time in various situations. Participants in the buying process, the buying center, all the individuals and the units that play a role in the business purchase decision making process. The buying center is not a fixed or formally identified unit within the organization. Like Thompson said, we had a problem with the person and the types of stuff that they are buying. So we asked somebody else to help, and then we asked IT to help with anything to do with the printers, because the person continuously bought the same cheap printer that broke down in a few months. So when suppliers offers are very similar, buyers can allow personal factors to play a larger role in their decisions. However, when competing products differ greatly, business buyers are more accountable for their choice and tend to pay more attention to the economic factors. And so, of course, we do call on the phone and say, listen, boss offered us this on our paper, because Immediately when we stopped buying paper from Boss called us and said, well, what is we haven't had an order from you in a very long time. It's affecting our sales. And then we told them that John Bull was offering us the $9.99 a case. And, we went with that, and they was even keeping us. And they said, oh, do you use 50 cases of paper per month? Where do you keep that? And then we told them that. And so, of course, Boss tried to come up with a way to compete with that, but they weren't successful because I don't know if they had the space to be able to keep the paper and give it to us at that rate. Okay. Some other issues that may affect the decision are in environmental factors, include the current and expected economic environment, as well as shortages of key materials. Again, I talked about the shortage of toilet paper. Like I said, I don't know, if it really affected the Bahamas. When I went into the stores, I didn't have any issue buying toilet paper. A lot was on the shelf, but people were making a toilet paper run, and and so of course, every bank or every organization's um, person who was in charge of inventory or procurement, they knew that I would be in a lot of hot water if this place ran out of toilet paper. So they perhaps bought a whole lot of it. Other environmental factors could be technological, political, competitive developments can also affect a business buyer decisions. Culture and customs can also influence buyer reactions to the marketer's behavior and strategies. Organizational factors are important because each buying organization has its own objectives, policies, procedures, structure, and systems. And then they also set budgets. Each department actually had a budget. Before, what we did is we just bought inventory, and we just shared it out throughout the organization. But when we realized that some departments, they tied our operational cost to our bonus, then they came up with a budget allocation for each department. And so I would say we had like the trust department, the private banking department, HR, operations, and finance. And so we found that the people in the trust department and private banking, because they were frontline, they use more colored ink over the printer, which is very expensive. And so what we did is every time they came for a cartridge of ink or some paper, we had one person assigned to we had an inventory room, and then one person assigned to come and get the paper for their department or get the ink for their department or the pens and what have you. And what we found was that when we started to allocate, like say we spent $10,000 on inventory, almost every month, $5,000 to $8,000 of that 10,000 was going to the private banking and trust department. So operations and finance at the end of the year, because we allocated what they use, we saw that our bonuses became bigger because they were the cost centers. That's where the majority of the cost was coming from. And so that structure that we had put in place, had helped us in determining who used what, and how, because we were on a cost saving initiative in each department. They basically said, if you could get the costs down and still maintain the service, we'll give you a bigger bonus. So of course, everybody, was working with that, and that allocation to each department, it helped to see where the bulk of the supplies were going and who was costing the company the most. And so they had to look within. And even I was in operations, and what I saw is that my receptionist, she had printed most of the statements, and the ink for her printer was like $400, whereas we could buy her a printer that was just as good, but the ink was $200. And so just from that allocation, it helped us to determined where the high costs were. There's also interpersonal factors that influence the buying process. They can be very difficult to ascertain if you're working with a big group. Again, it took some time for Thomson Lewis to figure out that this person, is actually this person, and their influences, and even with us in terms of people took a very long time before they spoke up about their house milk, and before they didn't want to come across as, uh, I don't know, making people feel a type of way about it. And so for a very long time, they said nothing until, we brought it up in a meeting to say, well, we bought, a certain brand, and it's just that brand of coffee never moved. So, it was difficult to ascertain until people started to speak up about it. And then a lot of times people just don't care. They just don't have time, and they don't want to come across as they're complaining. So then there's individual factors all involved. Well, each participant in the business process brings in personal motives, perceptions, and preferences. And then, of course, you have that person who is just there to oppose. And so, no matter what you decide, the full group, you'd say, okay, we're going to go with this. This person is going to be in charge. This person will be accountable. We'll go to these companies. That's how it works. Don't let it be somebody's family member, a family friend, or, that's it. You have to definitely stick with that, no matter how bad the service is, no matter how bad. We have somebody who says, oh, when we work our lunch hours, the bank used to buy us food, and one of the managers' sisters used to cook. And so, of course, she'd be like, oh, I'm going to get the food from my sister. And the food was very, very, very bad. And so people was even discouraged in working overtime because they said, no, I prefer to get my money, because the only option we now have is that bad tasting food just because she's the manager's sister. Okay, so there are all sorts of factors that can affect the decision. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay.
Where were you reading from, Miss Bullard? I was trying to figure that out all that time.
Off my head.
Oh, because I would like to see it in the book. Okay.
No, okay, sorry. No. Okay, so again, all of that out of my head, and now we will and some notes that I keep. So let's go to the book so you can follow. So again, that was just my overview, and now we'll go to the book, and perhaps now when you read, you would have heard it for a second time and you can have questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. So let's start at on page 188. Okay, and at this point, everybody should have their 10%. But you're making me want to take away 5% because I'm not getting feedback. I'm not getting a discussion. I'm not getting questions. People falling asleep on me. So I don't know. Would you say, Italia?
No.
No?
We can try
Okay.
this class to have a discussion.
Yeah. Okay. So you start on page 188 for us then.
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
Organizational buyer behavior. The corporate sector, although relatively small in numbers, accounts for a large share of any bank's business, and the development and maintenance of a marketing orientation requires a thorough understanding of the needs of those corporate customers and their buying behavior. Although there are many aspects of the discussion about individuals above which are of relevance in understanding organizational buying behavior, the differences between the two types of customer are sufficient to justify separate consideration. Ultimately, all organizational buying decisions are made by individuals or groups of individuals, each of whom is subjected to the same types of influences as they are in making their own personal buying decisions. There are, however, some differences between personal and corporate buying decision processes. A. Organizations buy because the products or services are needed to meet wider objectives. For instance, to help them to meet more closely their customers' needs. That is to say, organizations buy to fulfill organizational requirements, whereas personal customers buy in order to fulfill their own needs. A number of individuals are involved in the typical organizational buying decision. While final consumers typically make individual decisions, although, of course, a personal buying decision may involve other family members, for example. And so the effect of interaction between group members in reaching a decision may not be so very different. The decision process may take longer for corporate decisions. The use of feasibility studies, for example, can prolong the decision process. Tendering processes in government buying also have this effect. The organizations buy a complex total offering, which can involve a high level of technical support, staff training, delivery scheduling, finance arrangements, and so on. E. Organizations are more likely to employ buying experts in the process. There are areas in which buying behavior differs between organizations and final consumers. However, we should be wary of making too strong a distinction. The consumer's decision to buy a house may have more in common with an organizational decision to buy equipment than with the decision to buy toothpaste. Equally, the organizational decision regarding the purchase of pencils is closer to many final consumer decisions than it is to major equipment purchases by that same organization. Therefore, it is important when discussing organization buying to consider specifically the nature of the purchase. There are many examples of different types of organizational buying behavior, ranging from simple reordering, say of a bank's stationery supplies, to complex purchasing decisions, a bank lending money to a third world government as part of a consortium. Although it is difficult to identify a useful overall categorization scheme, there are common features which can be discussed. A. Who buys? 1. Is it an individual or a committee? 2. What is the job title of the buyer? 3. Who influences the process? B. How does the organization buy? Are there discernible stages in the buying process? C. Why does the organization buy? 1. What are the factors which influence the decision process? 2. What is the relative importance of these factors? Webster and Wind and the DMU. The model proposed by Webster and Wind is probably the best known of the models of organizational buying behavior. Webster and Wind see organizational buyer behavior as being influenced by a number of sets of variables. A. The individual characteristics of the members of the buying center, such as personality and preference structure, are factors similar to the personnel, social, and family factors which influence personal buying processes. B. Another important variable is the relationship between members of the buying center or decision-making unit, DMU. 1. The user. For purchases of bank services, the user may be, for example, the person in the organization receiving the equipment which a bank loan is used to purchase. This user may have influence on the technical characteristics of the equipment and hence the host, and on reliability and performance criteria. Such a person may know little about banking services, but a lot about the purchase for which a loan is made. 2, the influencer. This role is particularly useful where the purchase relies on technical knowledge. Unlike personal purchasing behavior, where opinions may be sought from colleagues, friends, family, etc., competitive pressures and trade secret constraints may limit the sharing of information between companies. In this environment, the salesman can be a respected technical link with the buyer able to influence the purchasing process. A good example in financial services is pension provision, which is often complex and where the advice of a competent salesman can be very valuable. Trade journals can often be a good source of influential information besides salesmen of the supplying company. Also, there is a tendency not to copy competitors, but to seek one's own solution and thus demonstrate independence. 3, the buyer or decider. As already noted, decisions are in the final analysis made.
Analysis. Mhm.
As already noted, decisions are in the final analysis made by individuals or groups of individuals. These individuals have personal idiosyncrasies, social pressures, organizational and environmental pressures. Thus, each set has a set of rational factors, task variables, and non-economic factors, non-task variables, which influence their decision. 4, the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper controls the flow of information about the purchase. This role can be senior or junior, but it's important because it influences the communication flow within the organization. Organizational characteristics, including the size and structure of the organization, the use of technology, and so on, are also important considerations. In the banking sector, an understanding of the structure and organization of the corporate treasury function in actual or prospective clients will be important in guiding the bank as to who to approach and how to approach them. The relationships and position of the buyer within the organization are particularly relevant. The buyer may be senior or junior, and the purchase process can involve power struggles with user departments. Finally, due consideration should be given to environmental factors such as the political, technological, economic, and legal facts which affect general competitive conditions and thus may affect organizations' needs and requirements.
Okay, so give me one environmental factor, Miller, that what I discussed in the overview that could influence this decision or what could cause an issue. Miller, are you there? Kendisha?
Sorry, yes, I'm here. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, an environmental factor such as a political, technological, economic, or legal factor that could affect the decision.
No, I don't remember hearing that.
Remember we talked about the toilet tissue being
Well, I
because
came
of
in
the pandemic.
Yeah, I came in class late, so I didn't catch most of that.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, fine. Are you okay now?
Yes, I'm good to go.
Okay, so continue to read on with dealing with the DMU. Thank you, Italia.
Okay, dealing with the DMU. In marketing terms, the DMU is a vital target for suppliers' marketing initiatives. The size and structure of the DMU will vary between organizations over time in the same organization and for different types of purchase. The marketing department of a bank at corporate clients needs to be aware of how buying decisions are made by the DMU, how the DMU is constructed, who are the most influential figures in the DMU. A thorough understanding of the nature of the DMU provides the basis for an effective approach to both existing and prospective corporate clients. The initial target for marketing activities may be the gatekeeper role. As this function builds up, maintains, and filters information to other members of the DMU, it is important that the bank builds up awareness and understanding of and interest in its products in the mind of the gatekeeper. If this step fails, the gatekeeper may filter out the bank's information, and thus the rest of the DMU may not even be aware of it. The subsequent and more difficult task for the bank is to decide how to inform, promote, or persuade influencers, buyers, and users within the DMU. Direct mail to identify named individuals with tailored financial data is one possible route. Care must be taken not to be seen to be usurping the role of the gatekeeper. Otherwise, the gatekeeper may react adversely if the role is powerful enough to do so. Access by the bank's sales staff may be difficult to achieve for similar reasons, especially for information decisions where senior staff are involved. A number of possible routes exist besides the direct mail route noted above. Catalogs can provide financial data in a non-threatening way, encouraging the gatekeeper to pass the information on to financial managers. Quality information presented in this way can enhance the bank's reputation. Trade and technical press. By advertising or by the astute placing of press releases, the bank's services can be brought to the attention of deciders and influencers through the relevant trade press. Press releases on recent sales successes can encourage other buyers in the same industry to take a similar decision. Public relations. Corporate advertising to enhance corporate image is familiar territory to the major UK banks. Once a strong corporate image is established, it can be used to back other sales and marketing campaigns. Lloyd's Black Horse is a prime example of this strategy in action. Editorial comment in newspapers and on TV, trade shows, exhibitions, and sponsored events can all be used to enable buyers and influencers to see the supplier bank in a positive light. Pair group presentation. If senior staff are involved on the side of the buyer, then the use of equally senior bank staff in a presentation will show that the bank recognizes the status of the buyer and responds accordingly. If the gatekeeping role is a relatively junior one, this approach should ensure the access to the buyers and deciders is assured. The decision process and the DMU. The decision process and the role of the members of the DMU at each stage is shown in the diagram below. Of course, as was indicated earlier, the process will vary according to the type of purchase being made. For example, in the case of a bank's services, the financial arrangements for the purchase may be independent or interdependent with the supplier of the equipment. If the decision for the bank is for a bank loan, then the whole of this decision process applies to the supplier bank, and hence the bank must gain a thorough understanding of this process within the client organization. Alternatively, if the decision is for capital equipment, the role of the bank as financier may be at the agreement on terms and conditions of supply stage. What emerges from this discussion is that the process is complex and needs careful marketing action if the outcome is to be influenced favorably. The buying process. Another system of categorization is based on the complexity of the organizational buyer behavior and the complexity of the buying process. 3 types of situation can be identified. Routinized buying behavior. This category deals with habitual buying, where the buyer knows the offering and the item is frequently purchased. It is likely that the buyer has well-developed supplier preferences, and any deviation from habitual behavior is likely to be influenced by price and availability consideration. Limited problem solving. This category deals with the purchase of a new or unfamiliar product or service, but where the suppliers are known and the product is in a familiar class of products. For instance, a new type of business bank account. Extensive problem solving. This situation focuses on the purchase of unfamiliar products from unfamiliar suppliers. This process can take much time and effort and involve the need of developed criteria with which to judge the purchase. For instance, a new type of finance arrangement to cover a new class of business.
Okay, so we want to stop right there, and we want to go on to page 200. And like I mentioned on Tuesday, question number 5. What are the differences between organizational buying behavior and individual behavior? And so what I want you to do is add that onto your homework that you're going to submit tonight. You can take the rest of the time and answer this question, work in your groups, and then do your homework. Okay, so we'll stop right there with the organizational buying, but I want you to answer questions 5. Okay, and question 5 is on page 200.
Okay, so we're adding question 5 to the homework
Yeah,
and going over our projects.
right. And so if you would have submitted your homework already and you don't want to make any changes, like I said, it's sure that you answered what I saw so far from the essays is the essay question was not answered. And so if you want to take some time and resubmit your homework, that's fine. If you don't, you can just send question 5 alone by itself. Or if you haven't submitted your homework, you can add question 5 to the homework and then submit it. It's up to you.
Okay.
Okay, and then work in your groups and complete your projects, because your projects are due on Sunday at 11:59. So you have to send it to my email so you don't get any points taken off. Now, one other person has made an arrangement, so everybody else, Sunday at 11:59. I expect the projects to be in my email and then presented on Tuesday. And so on Tuesday, we're starting with Rissalene and Italia. Then we're going to Kaisha and Stephen. And then we will move on to Thursday, where we would have Rissalene. No, sorry, Melisha Blakely and Kendisha. Okay, so everybody is aware of when they are slotted for.
Yes,
Correct?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so and then you get all your homework grade and the questions 5 and 2, 3, and 4 all back on Tuesday. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. So you all have a good evening, and I'll be looking out for your emails with your homework.
Okay, Miss Pollard, you too.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, good night.